It's hard to know where to begin, but I'll start with the basics. My name is Jake. I'm 45 years old, and I've been married to my wife Sarah for nearly 18 years. We have one child, our son Ethan, who is now 16. If you'd asked me a decade ago, I would have told you that my life was close to perfect. A loving wife, a growing career, and a bright, energetic little boy. But 6 years ago, everything changed. It was a Tuesday. Funny how the worst moments of your life stick to mundane days of the week, as if to mock you. I had come home early from work to surprise Sarah with dinner. Instead, I found her sitting on the couch with her phone in hand, looking guilty. That one moment turned into an avalanche of revelations, texts, photos, and ultimately, a confession. She had been unfaithful. The details hardly matter now, but the weight of that betrayal has never left me. In the aftermath, I felt like a shell of myself. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and yet, I stayed. Ethan was only 10 at the time, and I couldn't bear the thought of shattering his world. Sarah and I decided to try to make it work, for him. We went to couples counseling and individual therapy. We had countless late-night talks, some ending in tears, others in silence. But the love we once shared? It never returned. Now, 6 years later, Sarah and I coexist. She's a wonderful mother to Ethan, and we function well as a team when it comes to parenting. But as a couple, we're strangers. More than strangers, roommates. Friends, maybe. The woman I once adored feels like a distant memory. And the man I used to be? I don't even recognize him anymore. I've thought about leaving countless times. Last year, I even packed a bag. But then life intervened. I lost my best friend to cancer, and a career setback left me scrambling to keep things afloat. Every time I think I'm ready to walk away, something anchors me to this place, this life. And then there's Ethan. How do I leave without destroying his sense of stability? How do I protect him while finding peace for myself? The affair didn't just affect Sarah and me, it rippled through every corner of our lives. My relationship with my parents, for instance, took a hit. When I confided in my mom, she told me to focus on forgiveness, while my dad's silence spoke volumes. They've always been traditional, and I could feel their quiet judgment, not of Sarah, but of me, for staying. At work, I became more withdrawn. My coworkers noticed, though they never pried. I started making mistakes, missing deadlines. My boss eventually pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay. I lied, of course. What was I supposed to say? My wife cheated, and now I'm unraveling? Ethan is a good kid. Bright, kind, and talented. He's also incredibly perceptive. Over the years, I've caught him watching Sarah and me with a look of quiet curiosity, as if trying to piece together the puzzle of our marriage. Once, when he was about 12, he asked me why Mom and I never held hands anymore. I stumbled through some excuse about being tired or stressed from work. He didn't press, but I could tell he didn't buy it. Now, as a teenager, Ethan is busier with his own life. He's got friends, school, and soccer. But I worry about how my decision to stay or leave will affect him. Will he see me as weak? As selfish? I've tried to shield him from the cracks in our marriage, but kids aren't blind. After the affair, I threw myself into work. It was my escape, my distraction. But last year, I lost a major client and, with it, a significant chunk of income. The stress of trying to rebuild my career while dealing with my crumbling marriage has been overwhelming. There are days when I sit in my car in the office parking lot, staring at the steering wheel, unable to move. Mark was my best friend for over 20 years. When he was diagnosed with cancer, it felt like the universe was kicking me while I was already down. I spent as much time with him as I could, but watching him deteriorate was excruciating. Mark was the one person I could talk to about anything, including Sarah's betrayal. Losing him felt like losing a part of myself. Without him, I felt even more isolated, more lost. The turning point came a few weeks ago. Ethan had a soccer game, and as I sat in the stands, I realized that this chapter of my life, the one where I stayed for him, was nearing its end. He's growing up. In 2 years, he'll be off to college, starting his own life. And what will I have left? A hollow marriage and a lifetime of regret? That night, I tried to talk to Sarah again. I told her I felt like we were just going through the motions, that I couldn't keep living like this, She brushed it off as she always does. "We're fine," she said. "Ethan's fine. Why stir the pot?" Her indifference was the final straw. I realized then that I couldn't wait for the perfect moment to leave. There will always be something, some reason to stay. But I can't keep sacrificing my happiness for a life that no longer feels like mine. I've started making plans. Quietly, carefully. I've consulted a lawyer to understand my options. I've begun setting aside money, building a safety net. And I've started thinking about how to have an honest conversation with Ethan. He deserves to know the truth. Not all the details, but enough to understand why I'm leaving and that it's not his fault. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in years, I feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe it's not too late to find peace, to rediscover who I am outside of this marriage. I love Ethan more than anything, and I'll do everything I can to make this transition as smooth as possible for him. But I've realized that staying for him isn't enough anymore. I need to leave for me.